Hello everyone, I'm Admiral Ellis and welcome back to another episode of the Admiral's Musings. I've been trying to lay low for the last couple of weeks because all of the work at the Albany Rensselaer base is drawing some attention to me that I would really rather not have. I'm not ready to point fingers yet, as I may have said before. I'm not sure if it's a fragment of the Anti-Time League, I'm not sure if it's the Daleks, I'm not sure if it's the Silurians, for all I know. They always seem to be cropping up, especially around here. Or somebody else. I don't know. I'm not ready to point fingers. I'm not ready to go after anyone. I'm not going to go on a crusade. But I have been trying to lay low. Now, obviously, I've been making a lot of trips back and forth. And it seems like every time I show up, I get a warning from Quonset Naval Station has their air radar on all the time. TF Green, over the past few weeks actually, I've gotten someone in TF Green so I can bounce off their radar. I don't have to worry about it. And it's one other place. It's Newport, I think, has their radar station, and I keep getting alerts from them, especially when I'm coming back from Rensselaer, that there's an unidentified object in the AO, and they're basically asking me if they want me to, or if they want, or no, if I want them to scramble fighters to go after it, or if I'm going to go after it, or to not do anything. The thing of it is, because I have the base, or because I had the base over here for so many years, they started relying on my jurisdiction when it came to UFOs, because there was more than one occasion when they were gonna scramble fighters after something, and it was either me or it was, one of my allies or one of my friends. So they always default to me and ask me if they want, or if they're gonna scramble the jets. Now, normally I say no because it's much easier interrogating someone alive than dead, and explaining that you're going after a UFO to fighter jet pilots not only burns up time, but is not good and quite confusing for the pilots and for the people who have to explain it. But yeah, no. Flying saucers, not necessarily saucers, but UFOs of all shapes and sizes showing up here. Thank goodness, they're not at the new base yet. In time, I'll be there, and I won't have to worry about things here. And the U.S. Army can act on their own discretion as to what to do with unidentified contacts in the sky. Of course, they can have fun briefing their fighter pilots on shooting down a UFO. But on a different note, the base has been coming along. It's been coming along quite quickly, actually, with all the time that I've been able to spend there. We built the hangar door. The hangar door is not in place yet. We're doing a cut and cover method for the hangar because it's not. It's a very shallow level. It's a very shallow area, and we're not using any sort of explosives or any sort of technology to get rid of that. We literally have a dozen excavators and trucks pulling dirt out of the thing, building this hangar bay. The schematics for the vertical launcher have been separated up, of course, into the different components so people don't know what they're building, and sent to a bunch of different manufacturers, and we're going to be getting those pieces one by one. We have maybe 10 or so out of several hundred. And of course, those are all the smaller components. The larger ones and the ones that are of more unusual materials are going to be harder to come by and take longer to arrive. It's like, with the launcher right now, it's like a puzzle when you're finding pieces and none of those pieces fit together yet. I have 10 pieces and none of them remotely interact with each other. I mean, they do because they're in the same system, but they're nothing that I can plug into one another or bolt together or anything like that. It's just 10 completely unrelated components of this system. The hangar door is propped up against some scaffolding. It's pretty big, I'll be honest. The scaffolding is for part of some radio masts that we're building on the site, so that I can have my own radar, and so that I can communicate long distance, not only to places like the SGC, Cape Canaveral, where NASA is based, and into space, but just so that I can, have my own radar, as I said. I lost my train of thought there. It kind of fell apart. Point is, we're building radio masts and radar dishes and all sorts of other devices that may look weird when viewed from Google Earth. Which is why I can't disclose the location of the base. Fortunately, I have, friends in high places that can omit things. Like, if you look for Area 51, you won't find it. I mean, that's because that's where all the alien spacecraft are landed, but... No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, don't get me wrong. So, there really haven't been that. There hasn't been much else over the past couple of weeks. There's just been a lot of work on the bases. I mean, at the same time it's quick, it's slow going. It's like, you get a lot done, but what you get done is still only a tiny fraction of all the work that has to be done in the base. So, as we've been doing that, we've also been designing the elevator cart that's going to be going down the main shaft. It's pretty big. I don't think I talked about how massive this main shaft is. You would probably fly a puddle jumper down it, just straight down the thing, straight and level. But it's not going to be connected to the hangar bay other than by a hallway. So, it's not our service elevator, it's not a cargo lift, it's just the main lift. I was gonna say think of the one in the library on Alpha Halo, but it's not that big. It's big, but it's not that big. So the other thing, there was one other thing, and it was actually kind of amusing. If the girl who was on the receiving end of this unfortunately ever sees this video, I apologize, but if you see this video, you probably still won't remember it happening at all. Now get your mind out of the gutter. What actually happened was, there are these, I kind of just call them the Podules. They have an actual name, but it's a very, very weird and impossible to pronounce name. It starts with a sound like a P, and it goes somewhere from there. I can't spell it, I can't pronounce it. I call them the Podules because they're an alien race, of course, that are, quite technology dependent at this point, and they live on motherships. Now, the motherships are more than just a base station, they're literally motherships. They create these, batches of children, and they put them, because the motherships, they fly through star systems, they hop from one to the next, spreading out the children, and if one takes a foothold on a planet and harvests the resources, it becomes another mothership. That's how they grow and repopulate. So, one of these passed through the system, and we knew it was coming, so we were dispatching teams to, well, we weren't dispatching teams yet, we were dispatching instruments, survey science instruments to catch these things, and then we'd send teams in to dispose of them. And by dispose of them, we just mean transplant them, because we won't murder children Podules. We don't. It'd be dumb. It'd be inhumane, first of all. It'd be like, finding a pack of wolves in the forest and murdering all the children. Murdering all the helpless children. Okay, maybe wolves wasn't a good analogy. Like pandas or something like that. Something cute, where the babies can't harm you. I mean, all the wolf pups, adorable. That's beside the point, though. The Podules, what they do, the mothership will fly through the system, and they won't, use typical reentry. They won't have stuff coming into the atmosphere of an alien planet. They use transmatting teleportation, and it is a fiery teleportation. So they'll teleport them in just random spots around a habitable planet. One in particular appeared in this woman's house. They show up in these pods that are about the size of a decent clay pot, maybe actually about the size of that, of the dehumidifier back there, maybe a little smaller. I know they look semi-organic. They're metallic and they have leaves, sort of like a bud of I'm trying to think of a flower here, and I don't know flowers, but they look sort of like a flower bud almost, like curled up, and they're pointed on the top when the podule was in there. Now these things will teleport into place, and a couple hours later, the podule will burst out in, a chemical reaction of fire, and it will scorch a small area around it. It's not a fireball, but it's like a poof, and it sets things on fire, or it scorches things, and then the podule will fly off, and then you have to chase it down, and that is probably the hardest part of catching one of these things, because you have 2 hours to get to it before it pops, and then after it pops, you have to chase it down. And these things, I mean, they aren't flyers. They use some sort of chemical reaction to just propel themselves through the air in these kind of jumps or spurts. Like, they have a natural kind of after they come out, when they're spiked, they open up, and then they kind of parachute down, basically. The whole reason for the podule itself is to what's the word? To keep them safe during the teleportation, the transmatting, because it can get hairy. But coming back around to the actual story this week was Sarah and I had to go after one of these podules, and they just appeared in a woman's house. And we went into we didn't want to go in through the front door, so we went in around, and she had a bulkhead and it was open, so we went in through the bulkhead into the basement. Now while we were in the basement, we didn't know where the podule was. We didn't notice that the picture window in the front of the house had been broken. But while we were downstairs, she came home, and so she's looking at the broken glass all over her front porch because it exploded outwards. That's where the podule went through. And the burn mark in her rug in this very strange object. No, I'm sorry. She didn't see the strange object. I'm sorry. No, backtrack here. We went upstairs, got it, and on the way back downstairs, she came home. And Sarah goes, I think she came home. I think someone's home. And so I poked my head back up the stairs, and the entrance to the basement leads right out into the front room. And this woman is standing there and looking at a broken window and looking at the burn mark on the floor, and just stammering, yelling at me because she thinks I did it, and I'm holding this, unusual thing. Yeah, no. I did a very bad job of explaining, and she was just kind of freaking out. And she followed us into the puddle jumper as we tried to leave with the podule, because you can use the resonant energy signature in a podule's case to track down the baby podule. So that's why you need the case. No matter what, you have to go and get this thing. She followed us into the puddle jumper, and by the time I realized she was there, we'd already taken off, so we had to tranquilize her, wipe, the last, 30 minutes of her memory, and then bring her back home, fix the window, and get her a new carpet before she woke up again. So that was weird. That was not something that I normally have to deal with, and not something that I'm really used to dealing with. But that's all for this week. Keep on staring at the stars, and look out for podules.